Well, if you're a fan of Ivan Toney, or you're a fan of Douglas Luiz, or both, because that's what Arsenal are trying to do. Forget the or, it's and. Apparently they're trying to sign both and more. It's a big shopping list. Arsenal are, according to breaking news that I'm reading right now, looking to get really busy in the transfer window. Now, I don't know about you, I've been doing my Christmas shopping. I'm sure some of you are too. It looks like Arsenal are trying to get ahead with theirs as well. Of course, the big January presents we're hoping for is a load of signings that can come in and take Arsenal to the next level. Arsenal are getting ahead with their planning. Let me take you through all the news because as you've seen in the title, Arsenal are looking at some big players here that can hopefully make a big difference. And when I say big, I'm not saying world-class, the elites, the Osmans of this world. I do think those are summer deals. In terms of January signings, it looks like Arsenal could be willing to do some real business. Let's go through it. Fabrizio Romano, the king of transfers, the man who's always got the latest information, has said that Douglas Luiz remains Arsenal's favourite option as a midfielder. He's considered the perfect player. I don't know if I'll go as far as say perfect, but fair enough. I trust Arsenal's ability to, scout a player, especially with the last few years of work. He goes on to say, but Arsenal remain on their position as they don't want to sell. Sorry, Aston Villa remain in their position as before. They don't want to sell Douglas Luiz. No changes since November, yet. Could that change? Now, that's not the only time we've heard about Douglas Luiz and some reports and news today. Rahman Osman, football writer for LondonWorld.com, has said that Arsenal are actually in talks with Douglas Luiz. He's their first choice for midfield reinforcements in January. Now, we know that Arsenal are looking for depth in kind of two areas, as an 8 and as a 6. Douglas Luiz can kind of do both. He's been scoring a load of goals for Aston Villa, especially in home games. He's played as a 6 before. Is that something, or is that a profile that Arsenal just consider really, really important to add, someone who can do both the roles? He goes on to say that Arsenal are in talks, first choice midfielder, but Aston Villa want to keep the player. So very much reinforcing what Fabrizio Romano said, that is who Arsenal want to add in January. But all the reports coming up to this bit of news from today is that they're going to want 70, 80 million for him. So before we move on to the Ivan Toney stuff, because there's more to tell you about, Douglas Luiz, let's just think about this for a second. He's doing brilliantly for Aston Villa. Aston Villa are flying. They're doing great. They're, top 3. They could be top by Christmas easily, especially with Liverpool and Arsenal meeting this weekend. So they could be top going into Christmas. Does Douglas Luiz really want to force a move? He went there when they were in the Championship. He's helped them up. He scored a load of goals. He's a starting player for them. He's probably loving life under Unai Emery. He recently signed a new contract. Why would Arsenal coming in January force his hand unless he really thinks this is my chance at Champions League football, which I think Villa have a very good chance of getting, but it's not guaranteed. And maybe he thinks he's got a better chance at the title, but I'm sure Aston Villa fans will tell you, well, look, there's a point between us. Let's see what it's looking like on the weekend. I don't know. And the big thing is, will Arsenal spend 70 million? Ultimately, I am convinced that Douglas Luiz would make the switch, though it might take some talking and some real thinking. I'm not saying it's an easy one. But will Arsenal part with 50, 60, 70 million plus to get the player? I don't know, especially when there's more business to be done. So that leads me to these reports by Miguel Delaney, who says that Arsenal are leading the chase for Brentford's Ivan Toney in what is shaping up to be one of the January transfer window's major sagas. Arsenal are Toney's preferred destination. He goes on to say that there is a big, big shopping list for Arsenal. Have a listen to this. Arteta feels he needs a centre-forward, another midfielder and 2 fullbacks to complete his squad. Arsenal's budget and their own profit sustainability concerns, that is the new term for FFP, mean that they have to compromise on at least 2 of those for the time being, unless there are additional sales to supplement their transfer budget in order to sign Ivan Toney. Now, we know that Eddie Nketiah, lots of reports from the very reliable ITKs on social media and stuff were saying that there had been moves for Eddie Nketiah and that Arsenal are potentially looking for up to £40 million worth to get the player. So, if 40 million goes out for Eddie Nketiah, there's maybe something to play with. And what's the rest of Arsenal's budget? Maybe we're saying they have 30 to 50 million to spend now. But if you're looking for a striker, a midfielder and 2 fullbacks, that's a £150 million window, maybe, if you're talking about the quality it's going to take. Now, there were rumours of an Ivan Toney deal being done on loan, loan with an obligation, or maybe an option. I don't know what they're looking at potentially. There have been rumours that Dominic Solanke is an option. How much could he cost to bring from Bournemouth? Probably less than Ivan Toney, unless they were to agree that loan. So it's a big shopping list for Arsenal. They're trying to do a lot, and to be honest, that list makes complete and utter sense to me. If you're looking at what Arsenal need and you're trying to come up with up to 4 positions, yeah, you're going, well, centre-back, we're fine. Saliba, White, Gabriel, Kivior. White's playing right back. You've got Tomiyasu. So, yeah, right back there. Another left back to support Zinchenko. A midfielder, because Kai Havertz, while he's very much improving, is still kind of making that position his own. You've got Partey and his injury problems. Jorginho missed the last game through injury. Plus, we know that he's a little bit older. You know, can you sort of rely on him 3 times a week, all that? And then you're looking for another profile of striker to give Arsenal a plan B. You know, a lot of games this season have come down to sort of missed chances and missed opportunities, not taking advantage of our domination, and maybe a striker who puts in the back of the net where Jesus can play out on the right like he did against Man City probably makes a bit of sense. And then you've kind of added depth for Saka as well by adding that striker. So, catching my breath here on all that news, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Now, if I'm to make a bold prediction, I think Arsenal come away with 2, maybe 3 signings. And I don't think they'll be as spectacular as 60 million on Luiz and 70 million on Toney. But I think there's a chance they add a really versatile defender who can play anywhere across the back 4. A bit like the Tomiyasu signing was, you know, a 20 to 30 million pound defender who can cover all those positions. So then you're sort of adding depth in loads of areas through one player. I think they'll add a player who can play as a 6 or an 8, but I don't think it'll be Douglas Luiz, and maybe a Dominic Solanke, because I imagine he'd come cheaper than a Toney unless they can do a Toney with an option rather than an obligation. Those are my predictions, but it's very difficult to know. Arsenal are certainly looking busy in the transfer window. Let's see what they do. Any updates, of course, we'll keep you up to date with it on AFTV. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this little bit of transfer news update. Let me know in the comment section what position would you be prioritising and which players you want for those positions. Arsenal getting active. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's just hope they get their business done early, because we know there's no time to waste in this season, a season with lots of twists and turns. Man City sit 4th. That tells you there's no time to waste, because things are getting very serious in the Premier League. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Catch you all in a bit. And before I go anywhere, I must tell you, check out the AFTV merch on the AFTV store. I've got the 3 Kings jumper here, and there is a lot more on there as well. Go have a little look. I know a lot of you have been loving the merch. Hit the link in the description below, and look out for all the amazing Christmas content coming out on AFTV. We've got you covered on the 24th, 25th, Christmas Day, and the 26th, Boxing Day as well. We know that Arsenal play on the 23rd. We know we've got the big Liverpool game and all the fallout. We'll, of course, be keeping you up to date with all of that, but there will be content coming out on all 3 of those days before we preview the big West Ham game on the 27th. Well, we'll be previewing on the 27th. The game is on the 28th. So check out all that content and stay locked in here on AFTV.